Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. How are you doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing pretty good. We are recording this before the fact, but we'll be having a 24-hour stream.
Yes.
It will have happened by the time this comes out.
So thank you to everybody who donated and or watched.
Right, yeah. And so I'm assuming at this moment in time where you're listening to this, I'm exhausted.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's pretty accurate no matter when they listen, right?
Sure. Yeah. I'm generally, just tired and such from work and whatnot. But definitely exhausted.
Oh, man. Speaking of being exhausted, my friggin' dog kept waking me up this morning.
Oh, yeah?
He keeps licking. He's got like a rash or something on his leg, and he keeps licking it, and it's a big pain.
Yeah.
And I got woken up this morning because we had a plumber come in today to fix something. So the phone woke me up, and then the dog wouldn't stop licking himself. So I had to keep stopping him. Right. And then we kept having a staring match because he wanted me to leave him alone so he could go back to licking his leg. And I didn't want to do that. And then Lisa woke up and she was getting irritated because she wanted to just go back to sleep, but she couldn't if she knew that I was upset. And
so it was just a rough time.
Rough time, yeah.
Yeah, a borf time.
Yes.
So.
And also another thing that's really lame that I just found out today, we were going to have some friends come and visit for Thanksgiving, and they canceled.
Oh, no.
So screw them.
Oh.
No. Something came up there. They weren't able to get time off or something, and it's a shame because we're really looking forward to having a bunch of people over not for Halloween, for Thanksgiving.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm going to be going out of town for Thanksgiving, which is not usually what I do. Sure. I just I have family, nearby that I go to every year. And this year I won't be going, and I'm kind of really torn because I get to go see a new place and all that. Yeah. But it's then I won't get the delicious food that I'm used to.
Sure.
So
that's why you got to make it yourself, Jeff.
Yeah, that's true. I could, there are a few recipes from that dinner that I actually know, I know the recipe, so I could make it myself, but
sure.
It's I don't know.
Yeah.
So well, there's always next year.
Okay. So do you want to go ahead and jump into this episode?
Sure.
Okay. Well, so speaking of making dinner, I want you to imagine it's dinner time, and you have to make the dinner.
Yeah.
So you go and you're making some sort of something, I don't know, but there's you realize you're missing an ingredient.
Oh, shoot.
You are out of mushrooms.
Dang it.
I don't know if you even like mushrooms.
Oh, I do.
I don't, but
Skylar doesn't like them, but I love mushrooms, actually.
Well, there you go. That works for the fiction. So you're out of mushrooms, you need some more. You don't have time to go to the store. However, you do know that you've got a mushroom garden or something out in the glade behind your house.
Well, yeah, there's the woods. There's the woods out back that
there's a little fairy garden.
Yeah.
Don't step inside a fairy garden or whatever the heck the thing is.
Is there a thing?
It's there's a circle of mushrooms. Don't step in it.
Right. Yeah. The little fairy rings.
I guess you get cursed or I don't know. Well, anyway, you're not really thinking about that. You want some mushrooms, so you go out there. You start picking some of them or whatever. And I guess I kind of used this last week, but the ground gives way underneath you.
Falling into a lot of holes these days.
Hey, it's not my fault. You're the one who doesn't look where you're going.
You're right. I don't pay attention.
I'll just sort of cut ahead. You come to and you're in the Dragon Sword.
Oh, dang. Well, are there at least mushrooms in the Dragon's Horde?
Roll a d20.
That was a D100, but I got a 13. Oh, no.
There are no mushrooms.
Dang
you somehow lost the mushrooms that you picked before coming down here.
I look up and the dragon's eating them.
Yes. Well, luckily for you, gold, which you see lots of, gold can buy many mushrooms. All right. So today's magic item was submitted by Oh That's Sketchy on Discord.
Oh, yeah.
And the item is called the Stab Shroom.
Oh, the Stab Shroom. Yeah, I saw this post. Yep.
Yeah, so there's a Reddit post that was linked, and it is a It is a rare dagger, and the description says, it is unclear if this fungal +1 dagger is of natural or crafted origin. Nevertheless, it emits a bioluminescent glow and contains a powerful poison. When wielding it, you gain a +1 to attack and damage rolls. And in the picture, I'll put this in the notes and everything, but it kind of looks like if there was a really tall mushroom with like a green glowing blade sticking out of the top.
Yeah, it's a great design. I love it.
It's pretty cool. So the dagger does 1d4 piercing and 1d4 poison damage.
Ooh.
If you roll a natural 1, the dagger emits a burst of spores, which waft up to 5 feet in each direction. You and anyone in melee range must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw, or take 1d8 poison damage and become blinded for 1 round. The spores disperse at the beginning of your next turn.
Okay.
And then also on a natural 20, the target takes double damage and becomes poisoned for 1 hour.
Sure. Oh, so the normal double damage, I assume, from...
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Probably also includes the poison damage.
Okay.
Though.
Huh.
I imagine so. I doubt it's quadruple or whatever.
Yeah.
It's probably just, in addition to the double damage, they are poisoned.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like I like it. Like I like that it might have just like naturally grown this way.
Yeah.
So they'll just be like a patch of daggers.
That's a pretty good image there.
Yeah. Or, it's a special type of fungus that like will fruit into this dagger many times, in a decade or something. I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
Like, yeah, that like I like the picture. It's really great. Like,
yeah, no, it's really good.
I
the one we're looking at is actually upside down, but
yeah,
it's pretty cool. Really good design.
I like mushrooms. Like the edible kind are tasty, and like just fungus in general is it's very interesting and neat. If you don't know anything about fungus, look up fungus. Like they're cool. Like it's like you think of. Like, if you don't understand what a fungus is, you think a mushroom is just another plant. They're not plants.
Totally
it's
different.
A completely different thing. If you don't know mushrooms, don't go picking and eating mushrooms.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If we have not made that clear I feel like it's come up before, but if not, we'll say it again. Don't eat mushrooms in the wild.
Just in general, don't do it unless you are like a trained forager.
Yeah, because there are some that can provide sustenance. However, there are so many more that will kill you.
Yeah, and there's a lot that like look like one that's edible.
Yeah,
but it's the one that'll get you very sick. You know, like they look very similar, but there are like 2 little details. Like this one's got frills at the bottom and this one doesn't, but they look identical otherwise. Like it'll just be a tiny little detail that like if you're not a skilled forager, you could end up poisoning yourself and dying. Yeah.
You probably already know this, but I will mention it in case our listeners are not aware. The mushrooms in Super Mario Brothers, they're like this like red and white capped mushroom.
Yeah.
Those are based off of an actual mushroom that when you consume it makes you feel like you are growing very large.
Wait. Is that real?
It's a real thing.
That's one of the effects of it?
Yeah. Because it's got some sort of a psychedelic effect that makes you feel like you are growing.
Oh.
So that's why when Mario eats it, he grows really big.
Huh.
And if I'm not mistaken, they are native to Japan.
Huh. Because I've definitely I know there are like the red cap, mushrooms with the white spots on them and stuff like that. I wasn't, it makes me worried that this video game has you collecting mushrooms and you get stronger, more powerful. And so were there kids that went around eating the red cap mushrooms?
No, I mean I'm sure at some point there were.
Yes, gave them the psychedelic effect of feeling like they got big, so they thought it worked.
Sure.
Like what? Like how much?
To reiterate, don't go around eating mushrooms. Just don't. Yeah. So I mean, as far as like what this item does, it's pretty straightforward. There isn't really a ton to it.
Yeah, it's just.
Deals poison damage.
Yeah, it's a mushroom dagger that deals poison damage and sometimes let off spores. Like it's really simple but very neat and like very nicely themed, and like I don't know, I could see like like a druid character being like, yeah, this is my jam.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, not really much else to talk about. Do you have any thoughts on the mechanics?
No, I think it's Nothing too crazy about it. Little extra damage, a chance of a extra conditional effect both on
which might
ones
affect
and
you.
20. Yeah. Like that 20. Like rolling a natural 20 gives something poisoned, but rolling a natural 1 does this other, like, might blind you or whatever.
Sure.
I don't know. I like that. Yeah. And sort of, it, like, I feel like that's a nice way to go about, like, the natural 1 thing. Like,
if it's specific to that item, I'm fine.
Right. Exactly. So, like, I don't like running natural 1, like, you drop your weapon because you rolled a 1. And it's like, But if there's, like, if you have this magical weapon, that'd be a nice way to implement natural 1 stuff in, when you don't really want to overdo it, is like, magic weapons, maybe ones that are stronger than the players should have at that level, which we discussed before, I feel like.
Yeah. A couple episodes ago.
One of the downsides is natural ones do something, negative.
Yeah, a cool item. Looking at the picture on Reddit, it looks like this was created by Alex Boak. AlexBoak.com is his website.
Yeah.
So yeah, real cool item, Alex Boak. Thank you, Sketchy. Oh, that's Sketchy, for submitting it on the Discord. I think it's a fun little item. Cool to talk about. All right. Well, Jeff, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items, they want to get us to talk about something on the Dragon's Hoard, or if they have questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
They could send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com, or they can join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. Yeah, we got a lot of discussion on there. By the time this episode goes out, my Halloween movie watching will be over, my October movie watching, but I've put a fairly detailed review for each and every one of the 31, actually technically 32 movies that I've watched during October. I've put reviews for all of those on there. Either you can still go and you can read those anytime you want.
Cool.
So yeah, a lot of cool stuff happening on our Discord. So go check that out. Also, before we get into the rest of the episode, we do have a giveaway to give away today.
Ooh.
We're giving away a copy of Chapel on the Cliffs. Even though it is not October, it is still a great time to run this spooky adventure for your players. Yep. It's a great adventure. Jeff can attest to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a good time. Chapel
on the Cliffs is an adventure from Goblinstone, a group of content creators in the UK. And yeah, they've made it so we can give away a copy of this great adventure every week. So speaking of which, Jeff, who is our winner this week?
This week's winner is Stephen J.
Winner. Gobble. Yes, so congratulations, Stephen. You should be getting that in your email within the next few days. If you have any problems, just let us know. And also be sure to leave a review. Let Goblinstone know what you think so they can continue to make great products.
I don't know if I brought it before, but like there's a bit of like sort of like backstory and stuff to Chapel on the Cliffs.
Okay.
That I can't remember if it's included in the normal PDF of it or not.
Oh, okay.
I forget where I came across it, but there's a lot of like a bunch of extra stuff that's like, ideas for future adventures. Like if you wanted to include some of like the more like some of the lore from the adventure, if you wanted to include that in your future adventures and stuff like that.
Sure.
It's like a few things to work off of, as well as like they have written other adventures that take place in the same area.
Oh, sure. So they might connect to each other.
But like I think there's more like, there's something bigger going on, but that's not directly, that's not part of the adventure, but you could include that stuff later on if you wanted to. So, and some of it's kind of neat. You know, I kind of like it.
That's cool. I think at some point Goblinstone started giving out the deluxe version of the PDF instead of just the original. The deluxe version might be what contains all that extra stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then I also want to thank all of our wonderful patrons for helping make the show happen. We have a Patreon campaign at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Patreon is an online platform where you can pledge to donate a certain amount of money to us or to another creator of your choice to, help us keep the lights on, help us pay for hosting fees, and also get some cool stuff in return.
Yeah.
I'm all for people giving us money, but if there's a way that I can, give you cool stuff to make it, make it better for you too. So we've got some outtakes on there. We've got bonus episodes. I know we talked last week about this bonus episode we just recorded for October that I think was a lot of fun. We played through the Terrible RPG, and you guys explored a ghost ship on there. There's also a monthly Roll20 game, which I'm going to be trying to get scheduled out for November pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be probably going to be finishing up the Lamplight Sanitarium adventure, or at least continuing it. I don't know if we'll finish it.
Sure.
But some really cool stuff on there. So go ahead and check that out. Once again, that's patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. Look at the rewards, see if anything appeals to you, and then, consider donating and helping make the show better.
Yeah.
And then, of course, thank you to our patrons who have already been contributing. You guys are awesome. And just one more thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. I think they just recently had an episode, as of this recording, all about getting better at coming up with content as a DM, which I think might play a bit into some of the stuff we talk about later in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a great podcast. Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. It is an actual play podcast on the network as well. And D&D Character Lab, Garen and Dan make characters and pit them against each other. They are not making any more episodes, but you can still go back and listen to their back catalog.
Mm-hmm.
So go check all those out, and let's go ahead and get into some questions.
Sure. Our first question comes from Leo Dasso Pernar.
Sounds good to me.
Leo Dasso Pernar. I think that's like an actual name.
Maybe.
Anyway, this was on Reddit. And they say, I am interested in becoming a DM. Any tips?
Yeah. So
I mean, yeah.
First, I would say welcome. Well, I would say good luck.
Yes.
Being a DM is a very rewarding part of playing the game.
Uh-huh.
It's a lot of work. It can be a lot of work. It is probably going to be a lot of work.
Right, yeah.
You may not always feel like you are as appreciated as you want to be.
Sure.
Try to discourage those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
If people are showing up at your game, that means they appreciate it.
Right, yeah.
I think that for a player who has not been a DM themselves may not realize how much work it is.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily that they are slighting you by not taking you aside and be like, hey man, thank you so much for being the DM or whatever. Just, it may not be that they just realize how much work it is, but the fact that they're showing up is showing that they're enjoying it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like the last time I DM'd, which was the third time I ever DM'd.
Yeah.
I just towards the end of it, I felt like, I was like, so it's like, did everybody enjoy themselves? And they all seemed to be like, yeah. It's so don't feel, that's another.
Yeah.
Don't feel weird about asking if you did good.
Oh, absolutely.
If you're nervous about whether or not you did good, don't feel about just bringing up hey, how did I do?
Yeah.
That's one of the things is one of the things that I get nervous about just in general life is how do I know if people like me or
sure,
don't think I'm stupid, but I'm never going to just come out and ask so what do you think about me?
Yeah.
But in this particular setting, it's one, I'm playing with my friends,
mm-hmm.
and people I'm closer to. So I'm I don't feel so bad about going all right, how'd I do?
Right. So yeah, it can be a lot of work, and there's a lot of stuff. It's probably going to make you very nervous. You're probably going to be very nervous your first few sessions. And by first few sessions, I mean every session.
Sure.
That never goes away. At least for me, that has never gone away. I am just even as I've gotten better at winging a lot of stuff,
mm-hmm.
I am still always nervous. I think even when I do wing stuff, I am more nervous because I know I didn't prepare as much as I should have.
Right, yeah.
Which brings me to the first piece of advice I would give for anyone becoming a DM.
Uh-huh.
And that is prepare.
Sure.
Now, that can take a lot of forms. I guess sort of a sub item for the first point is, I would say, read a lot of adventures. Whether you're becoming a dungeon master in Dungeons & Dragons or you're going to be running some other game, read a lot of adventures. Listen to podcasts where people are playing the game of your choice.
Sure.
Even if it's not the game of your choice, just listen to how people conduct themselves when running a game, just listen to what ideas people have.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say, because I consider myself a writer, and I think that the biggest piece of advice pretty much everyone will give for writers is read.
Right.
The more you read, the more used to the art, the craft of writing you'll get. You'll be exposed to more styles. You'll be exposed to just more stuff you can do with writing. Same thing with dungeon mastering.
Yeah. And I think there's a bit of a difference in those two crafts. Obviously, I feel like with something like writing, if you're reading other people's work, you might end up using their style in your work, and people might give you crap for it. I don't think you're. Well, I mean,
go on.
Yeah, it depends. But like, I feel like in D&D, I don't think you're going to get that as much.
Sure. I'm not saying people won't give you crap about it. I'm saying if they do, screw them.
Well, yeah, exactly. But like, I feel like
nobody's style is exactly the same as somebody else.
But I feel like in D&D, because like D&D and other tabletop games similar to D&D, like they're a little bit more narrow.
Sure.
And you're not just making up anything. So like okay, you're going into a dungeon. Yeah, everybody goes into a dungeon in their D&D adventure. Like no one's gonna give you crap for that. So so read a bunch of different adventures. You'll get so many ideas. Like you might take take an idea from each one and put it together and come up with your own thing.
Another little sub point for this one that goes along with what you were just saying. Don't worry about doing something groundbreaking.
Sure.
Like especially when you're starting out, do the most cliche thing that has ever been run. Have the players go into a dungeon, fight a dragon, rescue a princess.
Yeah.
Whatever you got to do to familiarize yourself with how a game is run.
Like unless you're like already a writer and have written like a story or have already gone through like world building or something like that. Don't try to make your own thing.
Yeah.
Don't be me and try to make your own thing. Just start running pre-made adventures. That's really the best place to start.
Absolutely. Like, yes, if you have put in the time to craft your own world and everything, then sure, go ahead and use that, I guess. But
even still, you should read, just to kind of get an idea of how the workflow is, you know?
I remember when I first started running games, I had never read a published adventure before. And when I started playing with Chris,
dang,
there were so many monsters I had never even used because I didn't know what they were or how they worked. And then when I started playing with him, and like it was Chris and this guy named John and this girl named Melissa, like those three, I started playing with the three of them. They were all very, very experienced, and I got to see like, oh crap, that's what that mechanic does? Oh, that's what that monster is? How I didn't know you could do all of this stuff with a D&D adventure. I would sit there and listen to Chris talk about all these templates that he would apply to all of the monsters he would run. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess I saw that template in the book. I never actually thought about what it would mean to use that though.
Sure. Yeah, there's plenty of things that you by yourself reading a thing might skim over, but somebody else might zero in on it.
Yeah.
And seeing what they do with it might bring something new to your table.
Yeah. So like I don't really have a problem with taking on someone else's style, because in the end I feel like every DM is an amalgamation of all of the other styles they've been exposed to.
Sure, yeah.
So like I said, the first point was prepare. Don't wing something until you are very, very comfortable with the game. The second point that I will have is be flexible. Now, when you read a book and the characters are all created by the same person. When you read a book. When you read a book, watch a movie, play a video game, whatever. So you might think that when you're running a game, you can kind of dictate ahead of time. You can decide, okay, the players are probably going to do this, and then this is going to happen, then the players are going to do this. It is never going to go how you planned it.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right.
Even no matter how basic you think the story is, the players are always going to have something you did not plan for.
Right.
So, although I say prepare, I think I've said this on previous episodes, and a lot of this we've covered on previous episodes, but it's always nice to go over it again. I've said prepare, but don't prepare so much that you can't bend. You can't change things up when the players come up with something you didn't think of.
Yeah.
You can't think, okay, I'm going to have this villain attack them. The villain's going to escape, and then they'll encounter the villain again later, because I guarantee you the players aren't going to let that villain escape. And then it's like, well, shoot, that was my entire plot. Don't make that your entire plot. Make that a possible plot.
Sure.
If the villain has a good opportunity to escape, have him escape.
Right.
If he doesn't, have him die or whatever, and then work with what other possibilities you came up with instead.
Yeah.
So preparation is number one. Always, always, always number one. The games where I have prepared the most have always been the ones that I felt the best about it afterward. Not everything gets used. And, sometimes I have to toss out most of my notes. But at the very least, I feel more confident running the game because I've got all this stuff prepared in case I need it.
Right.
So that's number one. Number two is be flexible. Number 3 is listen to your players. It can be very, very easy to get tunnel vision when you're running, especially when you're running your first game. Like I said earlier, you're going to be nervous, and that isn't going to go away. It might go away over time. Maybe over the course of a session, you'll get less nervous. Yeah. The next session, it'll start up again. Yeah. But while you are nervous, try as hard as you can to listen to your players. Your players will give you the best ideas. They will give you ideas for what to do. Mm-hmm. They will tell you what their characters' motivations are. Don't feel like you have to or that you can't go with what the players say they want to do. Right. One of the players says, "Oh man, I really wish we could fight a dragon." Mm-hmm. Shoot, let them fight a dragon.
Yeah.
They just wrote the adventure for you.
Right,
Go ahead and let them do it.
Yeah.
Maybe not all the time, but especially when you're starting out, listen to your players and then try to do things that you think that they will have fun. Because here's the thing, you can run the worst game in the entire world. If everyone is having fun, becomes the best game in the world.
Right. Yeah.
Like you might think, oh my goodness, this game is awful.
Mm-hmm.
None of this stuff makes sense. But if the players are having a blast, you're a good DM.
Right.
Whatever you think of, if players are having fun and they keep coming back, you're a good DM. Your game is great.
Yeah, like the stories that always get told about D&D sessions are like a lot of times it's when stuff goes off the rails.
Yeah, often.
So like it's not uncommon for your prepared session to go very wrong, but for everybody to still have a very good time.
Right. And I mean, hey, if you get to the end of the session, you're like, well, shoot, I really don't like where this went. Okay, fine. Talk to the players next session. Be like, hey, is it okay if we maybe rewind a little bit or maybe we go in a different direction or whatever?
Sure.
Just like you want to listen to your players, talk to your players.
Yeah, exactly. And they might be like, well, I really liked that this one thing happened last time. And you can work with them to say, okay, we can keep that, but move on somewhere else.
Sure. Like you can take the game in a different direction without asking the players, but I guarantee they're more likely to be upset.
Right.
Like if you give someone a really powerful magic item, for example, and then you just take it away, nobody's going to be happy about that.
No.
But if you say, hey, that magic item was really powerful, just a warning, I'm going to have something happen to it. And then maybe have it be like, oh, you have to sacrifice it to complete some ritual or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so listen to your players, talk to your players. I guess try to decide for yourself how much of a stickler you want to be for the rules. Depending on how much experience you have as a player, you may be very rules literate. You may not. I know there are a lot of people that started DMing as that was the first thing the first time they ever played the game was when they were the dungeon master.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it, but I have met several people that have said that. And, when that happens, that's fine. Just decide for yourself. Am I going to stick very tightly to the rules or am I not? And, you can always change that in the future. You can always have some wiggle room, but don't be a hardcore stickler for the rules like 1 minute and then constantly be tossing the rules out the window in order to screw over the players or something.
Right, yeah.
Pick one way to, if you want to disregard the rules whenever it makes the game more fun, all the power to you.
Right.
Go ahead and do it. Just make it clear to yourself. You don't have to tell the players. Make it clear to yourself so that you don't later on be like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Just be like, no, I decided I was going to do that and then I did it. Be honest to yourself how you want to run the game and then try to stick to it.
Yeah.
If you want to change it in the future, fine. Just make that a conscious choice rather than, just in the middle of the moment or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Another thing is don't get mad at your players.
Uh-huh.
Players versus DM is the worst attitude you can possibly have.
Yeah.
If you do something and then you regret it because the players took advantage of it, don't blame the players. Don't blame yourself. That's just how it goes.
Sure.
Try as best as you can not to stew over stuff.
Right.
It is real easy when a fight goes too easily for the players. It's real easy for you to just start like resenting the players and be like, dang it, why can't I just kill them already? Because you don't want to kill the player characters.
No.
You want to provide, you hopefully want to provide a challenging encounter and then, that leads into the next part of the plot. If your goal is just to kill the players, hey, guess what? You can do that. You can just say, hey guys, rocks fall, everybody dies.
Right, yeah.
That is a meme for a reason.
Yeah.
You can do that. So don't get mad at the players when they succeed. Also, don't get mad at the players when they want a different type of game than you do. You might want a game that's like very, very role play heavy. You may have made all these NPCs you want the players to interact with. Sometimes the players are not looking for that. That's why it helps to have a session 0 so that you can kind of talk amongst yourselves and come up with what type of game you want to run.
Right.
But if it happens, hey, if the players are enjoying talking to Boblin the Goblin more than they are in going and exploring this dungeon or whatever, let them. Like maybe try to usher them in that direction. Have Boblin go along with them or whatever. But, it's not the player's fault for wanting a certain type of game. If they're being disruptive, of course, I think that's a different issue.
Sure.
And in that case, you should probably try to talk to them, after the session, pull the disruptive players aside and be like, hey, what's going on? How can we make this
work?
Work. How can we make this work? So, I kind of consider that to be a bit more advanced DMing, because I know it's hard. It's hard for me to talk to a problem player about something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Try and figure out what your limits are. Try not to get upset about something if it's not really a big deal. And if it is a big deal, try to get used to the idea of talking to the player and work it out.
Yeah. Plan, but don't plan too much.
Yeah. Talk to your players and listen to your players.
Listen to your players and talk to your players. Just make sure everybody's having fun.
Yeah. Don't expect your game to be Critical Role.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be the curmudgeon guy who just dang kids in their... Well, because we've talked about D&D being represented in media and stuff like that, and it's always been very sort of like cringy in a lot of ways, and but even actual play stuff can be kind of cringy sometimes because you're not in on everybody's in jokes and things like that.
That's why I find it really hard to listen to actual plays. It might be so much fun for the people at the table,
and that's good,
and that's great, but it is not all of that is going to translate to people listening to it.
Right. I have not listened to very many actual play, period. I refuse to listen to things like Critical Role. Mm-hmm. And I've listened to some of it, but I sort of just stopped myself. I'm like, one, I don't think I'm going to enjoy it as much as a lot of people do.
Sure. I would definitely find, I haven't listened to it either.
Yeah.
I guarantee I would find things to be angry at.
It's just it's not going to be for me. Part of me is I'm really glad that this is more mainstream stuff because it's going to introduce more people and people who want to get into DMing. You could listen to Critical Role and get an idea of how to go about it.
Yeah.
What's his name? Mercer.
Mercer. Yeah.
Yeah. He's I've seen some videos of him kind of describing his method and stuff like that. He goes into detail of there was one video where he just he shows his DM screen and it's I leave my notes here and if I have my list of NPCs there and that sort of thing. I'm like, okay, that's really cool and interesting.
I thought you were going to say God's blank.
No, it's just,
it says
there's nothing
goblins question mark.
Right. And so he shows people his method and you can see okay, this is how one might start doing, D&D and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also it's sort of I like D&D before it was cool, you dang kids. And so people who are going into D&D for the first time, having only been exposed to something like Critical Role,
they're going to have very different expectations.
Very different expectations to the point where if you're mixing them with people who are just experienced from years ago, there's going to be some there's going to be some conflict.
Sure. Possibly of the
interparty variety. Cause in a lot of those real actual plays, they bend the rules a lot.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to have a bunch of rules lawyering in the show.
Right.
That's not fun to listen to.
Right. And I am a rules lawyer and it does annoy me sometimes when I'm listening to those sorts of things. But then after running some of them myself, I'm like, oh, that's why they did that.
Right. Yeah.
I realize I am being unfair when I do get upset at stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying I have a good reason to not like Critical Role. And it's not that I don't like Critical. I just refuse to listen to it because I know it's just, again, it's it's just not going to, I just know it's not going to be for me. So I just don't listen to it.
Okay.
But yeah, so like, they'll bend the rules. And so like a player who likes Critical Role and goes into a real D&D game with people who have been playing since forever, and they'll want to do that thing that one character did with that one spell.
Right.
Oh, I want to be like so-and-so who used the spell to do this thing. And then they're like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you can, because this character did it. It's like, well, that was their rules. This is our rules. And so like, they're not going to, it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder to explain to somebody who has seen it played in one specific way.
Sure.
Cause they don't necessarily understand that this is like, there's more to D&D than Critical Role.
Absolutely. Like imagine if somebody saw, I don't know, a movie like Avengers Endgame, and then they
picked up any one of the other comics, Well,
I was going to say, imagine if that was the only movie they'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And then they saw someone was like hiring actors for a movie, and they got on set and they were like, oh, this isn't like Avengers Endgame at all.
Right.
Then, that would be a bit unfair. Similarly, when if people's only experience is Critical Role and they come to a D&D game and expect it to be the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's that person's fault.
Right.
They don't know any better. That's the only thing they've been exposed to. So if you're the dungeon master, try not to expect your players to be as engaged and as active as the people on Critical Role are, or whatever, insert actual play podcast of your choice.
No need to pick on Critical Role.
Right.
Again, I haven't seen it. I don't have an actual opinion about Critical Role. Right. Anyway.
It's just be aware that those things that may have gotten you into the hobby are like the ones that are the most Hollywood. Like the ones that are unrealistically skewed in the way that is going to attract the most people. Your home game is not intended to attract people from all over the world to come and watch it, and that's fine. It is meant for the 5 or 6 people at your table to have fun for 4 hours. That is remember that is the purpose of your game.
Yeah.
And then hopefully bring them back next week.
Right.
So temper your expectations. You don't want anything to feel like it's getting too big. You don't want to expect anything to be too big. Just be aware, hey, I'm just having fun with this group of people.
Yeah.
Another thing I would recommend is for your first few sessions, I'm actually not sure which of these to say. I'll pitch both ideas.
Okay.
Either don't use very many mechanics.
Okay.
Have it be mechanics light.
Sure.
So that it's more about just getting used to telling a story and having the players tell a story. Or flip side, have it be mostly mechanics and then worry about learning how to role play and tell a story and everything as you go.
Sure.
It's hard for me to say which is better.
Well, I'd say that in that way you're playing to your strengths.
Okay.
So if your strength is storytelling,
sure,
go mechanics light. If you're really into learning rules and mechanics and stuff like that, if you're more, if you're like more math brained versus more words brained, I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So yeah, like play to your strength and then learn the rest later, I guess.
Okay.
Start so if you like chess, start with a simple combat, start with like a simple encounter, and like you'll start, it's like dipping your toe into the pool of D&D.
Sure. So yeah, if you have an idea of which one makes more sense to you, start with that and then try and work on the other one too.
Yeah.
I find generally, like at least the people I've played with my whole life, like over the years, I find that people tend to, especially with Dungeons and Dragons, because it is so rules heavy, people tend to have a better grasp of the rules than they do role playing, at least just starting out, because like you can open up the book and you can see how the rules work. You can't open up the book and see how role playing works. A lot of people argue, oh, you don't need rules for role playing. And well, okay, that's debatable. But I just feel that the more rules there are in the book on a particular thing, people are going to gravitate towards that more. It's going to be easier for them to understand.
Right, something to latch on to.
Yeah. So if your players got into the game by just reading through the player's handbook or something, I feel like maybe they're going to be more combat oriented or skills oriented. If they heard that, oh, hey, yeah, there's this game where you can play as any kind of character you want, and that's what got them interested in the game. Maybe they'll be more interested in a session that is just role-playing.
Yeah.
Try out both.
Right.
Start with whichever one you think will be easier. Then maybe after 1 or 2 sessions, switch over to whichever one you think will be harder.
Yeah. And that kind of brings me back to the Critical Role thing, as, like, it's a story.
Yeah.
You're like, people who are listening to these actual plays, they're listening to a story.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the understanding that, oh, this is a game that people are playing.
Sure.
And so, like, so when they come to join a game, they have this idea for a story that they want to tell. So they have this idea for a character, but it doesn't necessarily match up with the rules of the game.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh yeah, I want to be a vampire.
Right.
Your example that, you had a player that, I just want to be a vampire. So you had to find a way within the rules to find something similar enough to what they wanted to get out of,
to give him the spirit of what he wanted without actually giving the mechanics of what he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, yeah, there's vampires in this game, but I can't just let you be a vampire.
Yeah.
I have to find a way to, like, okay, within the rules of character creation, what can we do to get you close enough, that sort of thing. So, but like, that'll sometimes be discouraging for that player, because they're like, well, no, I wanted to be a vampire. I don't want to be this other thing that you slap together.
Right.
This is crap. You just threw that together. Like, no, that's the game.
Right. Yeah, the game is throwing things together.
Throwing things together and, putting a new coat of paint on it.
The rule book is just a big bowl of pasta you're throwing at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Right. Yeah, so it's hard to translate sometimes.
Be aware that, like, it's going to take some work in order to get everybody engaged, to get everybody involved.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that a lot of the time the mechanics is kind of just a better place to start, because you don't have to worry about how to fit everybody into the story. You just know, hey, everybody roll initiative.
Right.
And so on and so on. Here's a little sneaky little DM trick. If you don't have a lot prepared for a day, have a combat. Combat always takes longer than I expect.
Right.
So if you've got 4 hours and you think you only have 2 hours worth of material, throw in an extra combat.
Yeah.
That might end up taking up that might end up taking 3 hours, and then you have some stuff to save for next time.
And, like, a lot of times with encounters, like, even if it's just a random encounter, you just rolled for a random encounter.
Yeah.
Like, players can kind of run away with that.
Yeah,
sometimes. Like, they might be trying to travel to this dungeon to go through the dungeon and stop the lich or something. But you had a random encounter that involved, some bears or something. And then, like, they want to go and find the bear cave.
Sure.
Okay, sure. Yeah. All right. You guys, make some survival checks, find the tracks for the bears, and you guys find the bear, like, you go on a little side quest or something. So, like, that, that can easily use up more time. Or if that's just what the players want to do, go with it, You're like, the lich isn't going anywhere. Let's check out these bears.
Yeah. I would recommend, and then this is, I guess just a general DM thing. Maybe see if everybody, if you are not confident in how well you'll be able to keep, like, a full campaign going, ask the other players if anybody else would be interested in switching up DMing. Like, I know a lot of the time, whoever is the DM is often the DM because nobody else wants to DM. That it happens. Every group, it happens.
Yeah.
You might say after a little while, hey, does anybody else maybe want to run just like a one shot? And then, so, like, you can run a game after I've run a couple sessions, and then we can swap back and forth.
Right.
And that way you can learn how to play a little bit, and then you can get a little breather while somebody else learns how to play, and then swap back and forth and so on and so on. I don't know how realistic that is, but hey, it's worth asking.
Right.
Some of my favorite times as a DM were when everybody in the group was a DM, because we all switched up. And so we in every campaign, everybody got to experience everybody else's styles.
Yeah.
You may not know what just going back to talking about styles, you may not know what your DMing style is for years.
Sure.
You may not really have a DMing style for years. That's fine. Just if you see an adventure, like, this is again why I recommend reading published adventures. If you see adventures that you like, and then you string together a bunch of adventures that you like, you might be able to look back at them and see, I liked these adventures. Oh, this is the part of these adventures I liked. And then you've begun to see, like, oh, this is kind of my style because I like this, I like this, I like this. And then I really don't recommend making your own adventures for a long time until you are very confident.
Yeah.
But once you've run a lot of adventures that you really liked, you can start to see what it is that you enjoy, and then you can start making stuff that follows that, I don't know how much any of this is making sense. I hope it's making a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, like it's all good tips. It's just there's a lot to go through with this kind of a question.
There is.
Like no one's ever gonna master it. That sort of like it's you can only get so good.
Yeah. You are not going to know all of the rules until long after you have started running a game.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So don't get stressed out if like somebody in the group knows more than you. Mm-hmm. Don't view that as a problem. View that as, hey, I've got someone that can tell me what the rules are.
Yeah.
Try to view rules lawyers as an asset rather than an obstacle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to tie all of the points I've made together so far.
Yeah, it's really just like find the one thing that your strength in the game, mm-hmm. and just run with that. Just dive into it with that, I guess. So like again, like if combat's your thing, like if you're a player and you want to get into DMing and you've always been really all about the combat and like building your characters for combat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Start by just making it basically just a string of combats. Like it's still a game.
Make a string of combats, and then after a couple of them, throw in like a treasure map or some sort of a clue to a story. Maybe even something you don't know what it's going to turn into. Yeah. But come up with it as you go.
Yeah, and plenty of times some players are going to kind of like try to like steer away from combat.
Yeah.
And you can work with that. It's like, you throw a bunch of goblins at them, but they might start talking to the goblins.
Yeah, and don't discourage that.
And try to think on your feet as best you can. Just work with what you got. It's like, his name is Meat.
Sure.
Like, oh yeah, he's hungry. Oh, maybe that's why they were attacking, because they're trying to steal food. Just, kind of wing it, I guess. But, again, sometimes listen to your players. Sometimes they come up with better ideas than you had. And just work with it.
I find a lot of the time they come up with better ideas.
Well, because it's a cooperative storytelling game.
It is. Like, you should always view it as that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then just a couple more little things. Number one, don't be afraid to make a mistake, mm-hmm. and don't be afraid to admit that you made a mistake.
Right.
If you made a judgment call and it was bad and it upset one of the players, I mean, depending on the situation and the players, like, it's okay to say, all right, I understand that was a problem. Let's rewind and let's fix that. Or to say to the player, I'm going to stick with it for now, but from now on, after this point, we'll rule it the way that, that you said, mm-hmm. or talk to them afterwards or whatever.
Yeah.
If you think that you made a mistake, think about it. If you think that you made a mistake, it's okay for you to talk to the players and be like, hey, I think I screwed up when we were doing this. You don't necessarily need to change anything about what you've already done, but try to always be moving forward physically and metaphorically.
Right. Yeah.
I guess. So don't be afraid to make mistakes and to admit that you made mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the number one most important thing, remember the game is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
If at any point it stops being fun for you or for one of the players or for all the players or whatever, if anyone is no longer having fun, stop the game, figure out what can be done to fix that.
Yeah.
Because, especially for yourself, the players might be having a blast, but you're not. That is just as much of a problem.
Sure.
Try and figure out why you're not having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it's not because, those darn players killing my NPCs. Try not to let that be the reason. But if you aren't having fun, fix that. The person who's doing most of the work has at least as much right to have fun as everybody else.
Sure. Yeah.
Just try and keep everybody in mind, yourself included.
Right.
Try not to view yourself as some sort of like a martyr. Don't be like, they're having fun. I'm miserable, but at least they're having fun. No, there's a way you can all have fun.
Yeah. And there's sort of that like shared joke among DMs of like, having trouble getting players to do the thing that you want to do. Like, they're like all DMs have these issues in common, and like, you can kind of sort of be like begrudgingly be like, oh, those darn players. But I mean, if you weren't having fun, you wouldn't still be doing it, I guess.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I guess that's part of the fun is sort of like afterwards you can kind of like joke about like, oh, those darn players.
Sure.
Try to be in good spirits about it, I guess.
Yeah. I I like being a DM and I like being a player for different reasons. And I love being a DM because I can create whatever kind of world I want. You know, there is a freedom that comes from being the dungeon master that you just can't get anywhere else. And you might, here's another thing, don't be afraid to admit that you don't like being a DM.
Sure.
If you try it for a few sessions and you're just not enjoying it and you can't figure out why.
Yeah.
It might be that it's just not for you.
Yeah. So like if it is, you're like everyone's having fun, but you're not, eventually at some point you're going to start resenting that fun that they're having, and they're going to start noticing it, or, you know, the game in general is going to suffer from it.
Exactly.
So
if you don't want it to get that far.
Right. Yeah. So like if you're just like, I'm just not having a good time, you know, so it's like, does somebody else want a DM? Do we need to find somebody else who needs to be a DM? You know?
Yeah.
So
I mean, like, try not to just flake out on people, but hey, if it's that you are not enjoying yourself,
right,
it may not be for you, you know. So all the power to you. I hope that you have a great time. I wish you the best of luck. Hopefully it turns out great. Hopefully that you join the ranks of the DMs out there, and you're able to create some great games.
Yeah, as somebody who's just recently stepped into DMing, like, it's nerve-wracking, it's hard, but it's rewarding.
Sure.
It's a lot of fun, so do it. Our next question comes from Icarus Miniatures on Reddit, and they ask, do you fudge dice rolls as a DM?
And I wanted this to go with the previous question. I'll probably be pretty quick with this one. Sure. But it's up to you to decide as the dungeon master whether you're going to fudge dice. I'm going to say, if you can help it, don't.
Right.
And I've mentioned this in the past, but I will bring it up again because we are talking about, you know, tips for being a DM.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, you don't want to rely on it too much. You don't want to overdo it. Yeah, because like if you just keep doing it, at some point you're railroading it, the mechanics, I guess.
Yeah. A lot of DMs do it because they think that they can make a situation more cinematic, theatrical than the dice allow. That is probably the best reason to do it, but I still say that it's probably better to learn how to make the best of your rolls rather than to change your rolls, because I think there's a lot of bad things that can happen. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, like, there's a few times I remember fudging dice rolls recently. Yeah. And in most cases, it was sort of just kind of like hurry things along. Yeah. Like, not necessarily change the outcome to what I wanted it to be or whatever, but just more like hurry things along. It's like, okay, they're obviously overtaking these enemies very quickly. Sure. It's just a matter of rolling the right dice. Like, they're going to survive this. They are dominating these monsters. They're gonna beat it. Why make it last 3 hours? You know, why let the battle last 3 hours just because they're rolling low more often than not? Sure. Like, you know, the monsters are rolling low, the players are rolling low, you know, that sort of thing.
Been there. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, just sort of like try and fudge things to make stuff happen faster, I guess. Like, you know, not necessarily try to change things. I didn't want to change the outcome. I just wanted us to move along to the rest of the story. Sure. You know.
And yeah, I think that is also a valid reason to do it. But again, make it like, just as a rule, try to tell yourself, I'm not going to do it. If you do it sometimes, don't beat yourself up about it. I do it sometimes. Yeah. I try not to, but sometimes to speed the game up. Sure. Sometimes because like one of the players has just been rolling bad this entire session and I just want to make them do something cool. Sometimes I do that.
Right.
Sometimes it happens, but have the rule in your head be, I'm not going to do it unless I absolutely have to.
Right.
You know, the reason that I say it's a slippery slope is because I'm the kind of person that if something bad happens to one of the players and that player has a bad time as a result, then like I take that really seriously. If a player character dies and that player is very upset about it, either I can look at it as, well, the dice are the dice. It happened. You know, hey, I don't have control over that. It's nobody's fault. It just sucks. It happens. Let's move on. But if I am fudging 75% of the rolls, I'm going to tell myself, why couldn't I have fudged that one? Yeah. Why couldn't I have done that? And then I'm going to be beating myself up over something that should have just been, it's nobody's fault, it's the dice.
Yeah.
Now I feel like it is my fault because I fudge all the other stuff. Why didn't I fudge that one?
Yeah.
And then also just, if I fudge the dice for a reason sometimes, I find myself starting to fudge the dice for no reason other times. I start finding that I'm not even caring about what I roll. I'm just making up the number. That can make for a particular type of game. If it's a deliberate choice, okay, fine. I'm not going to tell you you're running your game wrong. But I personally don't like that type of game. And here's another thing. If I, as a player, realize the DM is fudging dice, I no longer enjoy the game.
Sure.
I feel like nothing is a challenge anymore. Mm-hmm. This is no longer a game where there's that excitement of random chance. Now it's just, okay, the DM is just dictating a story to us.
Right, yeah.
Not everybody is going to feel that way, but I do personally feel that way. So that's the motivation I use not to do it. That's the motivation I use to encourage other people not to do it. I find that when I started the game, when I started DMing, I would use a DM screen. And I find that whenever I am using a DM screen, I fudge more because there's no accountability.
Yeah.
The players are going to know whatever I rolled. Once I started playing with Chris and John and Melissa, they were rolling out in the open all the time. And once I started DMing games in that group, it was so freeing. I didn't have to worry about, oh no, are the players going to die in this encounter? Psh, I don't know. It's going to happen. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. It's not my fault. The dice are just falling in front of everybody. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
It was a completely different game, and it was so much weight off my shoulders. So if I can give a tip to a new DM, don't fudge dice.
Right.
It'll probably happen eventually. Don't beat yourself up if you do, but just let me encourage you, don't do it.
Yeah. Just try not to break that seal. You know? Just if you can help it, just don't do it.
If you notice you are doing it a lot, try to cut back.
Yeah.
And just try not to. That's what I say. Do I do it? Yes. Sometimes.
Yeah.
I always try not to. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to beat myself up over it, just like I'm telling everybody else not to.
Yeah.
But that's the tip I would give. Okay. So, all right. So that'll do it for our regular questions. So now we will move on to the ever increasingly confusing social media discussion question part.
I'm still not even sure if we got this right.
So the last question, which we asked 2 episodes ago, was, do you regularly and or have you ever dressed up in costume for D&D?
Right.
Do you recall what your answer was?
I must have at least once worn a cloak.
Okay.
But I'm sure
because you had a cloak.
I had a cloak. My sister made me a cloak for my birthday because she knows I was a nerd and went to like Renaissance.
Wait a minute. Whoa. You're a nerd?
No. I wear it to Renaissance Festival all the time. So I must have worn it once at least, but I'm pretty sure I would have taken it off and maybe even 20 minutes into it. Just
sure.
It's like, oh, this is warm and whatever. It's just in my way.
Yeah. So
I definitely did at least once, but I don't.
Yeah. I don't think I ever have for a role-playing game. I have for foam sword fighting, which may or may not be as nerdy or nerdier. That's not really what the question is. I'm just saying I honestly don't think I ever have for an actual D&D session.
Mm-hmm.
So over on Facebook, we got a few responses. Nathan H. says, I'll do a full costume now and then, but not regularly. I do frequently use props such as jewelry and journals.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about props. I feel like on one hand, I feel like they're great.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I would use them either.
I very specific moments.
As the DM, I love having handouts.
Yeah.
I love having stuff to give. I love having physical stuff to give to the players.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would ever bring a prop to a game. Well, I mean, maybe if it was something that I was actually using, if I had my character sheet written out in a journal that my character also had,
sure,
I would do that. Maybe. I don't know. Justin H says, "Yep, on Halloween, and even that was only once or twice."
Okay.
So okay. Caleb C says, only once last Halloween, the place our group usually plays was offering a discount on food and such for anyone who showed up in costume.
Okay.
So there you go. Double duty. Not only are you playing D&D, but you're getting the benefit of being in Halloween costume.
Right. Yeah.
There you go. Ila M says, I wear the same pair of earrings every time I DM. A giant pair of pentagrams that my players joke is a source of my world building and improv powers, but my players come as themselves.
Sure.
That's kind of cool. I can understand having something that you wear to get into the DMing mode.
Sure.
Or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, everyone's got their, I don't know, like, you got your sort of your lucky shirt or, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Gabe wears his,
red sleeve
baseball
shirts. T-shirt. Yeah.
So you do dress up.
I dress up as myself.
Right. You dress up as the DM.
Sure. That works. Sean M says, no, but I should.
Oh. ...
Dustin F says, I once played a Master of the Mask rogue. Each mask had its own personality. I made masks and wore them to the table so the others could tell who they were talking to.
Sure.
That's kind of cool. I can see as a game aid.
Yeah.
I can see stuff like that.
Yeah. If you're going for a really complicated character like that, visual aids help.
Yeah. Oh, shoot. And Dustin put up a photo of some of these masks.
Oh, those are really good.
That's pretty awesome.
Those are actually really good. I like
that. That is really cool. So go, anybody who's listening, go to our Facebook and check out Dustin's response. Looks like 4 masks on here. And these are is that 5? 5 actually. There's that black one in the center.
Oh, sure. That's what, like a little mask.
These are really cool. Good job, Dustin. Over on Discord, E. Thompson 03 says, I have never done so, but I almost always use it as a reason for my more nerdy apparel, like Hawaiian shirt with Batman on it, Avengers, etc. I wouldn't be opposed to it if it helped the group become more invested.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Like if everybody at the group was like, hey, let's all come in costume next week.
Yeah.
I'd do it.
Really? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if everyone's for it and it's good, they're going to be more likely to have a good time.
Sure. Damien the DM says, I'd love to, but what does a dungeon master look like?
Well, red sleeves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Floofy Shoob says, I have not. Too expensive, too much effort. Maybe if I went to more conventions, I would.
Sure.
Okay.
Like I said, like I have this cloak because I go to Renaissance Festival and it's, I have these things for another reason. So like I could easily dress up.
Sure.
I could easily dress up. They're not the most comfortable things to sit in for several hours.
Yeah, because you have that like leather armor.
Yeah, I got the armor. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want to sit at a table in that. Like, there was a time at Renfest where they were like, let's sit down because there's like they've recently added like sit down restaurants at our Renaissance Festival.
Yeah.
And somebody was like, let's go sit down and eat. And I'm like, oh no, I don't do that in this.
Right.
I stand over a trash can shoving turkey leg into my mouth.
Yeah. Stiltskin Kupo 84 said, we talked about wearing hats, but never did.
Hats.
That's a shame. You should. GG Sonic says, I always try to use more props and that sort of stuff, but since my players are very new to RPGs, D&D, and nerdy stuff in general, I'm trying to slowly ease them into it. Plus, it's expensive. And I can understand that, especially if you are afraid that your players might be turned off by a bit of, the stereotypes and everything. Couldn't hurt to ease them into it. I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah.
And then Peace Pancakes says, nope, unless by dressing up in costume, you mean upon arrival at your friend's house, you immediately change into sweatpants and a more comfortable shirt. Then yeah, all the time. But no wizard's robes for me. Okay.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I put on a costume when I go out to work, like whenever I'm at home, if I'm not in shorts and in my undershirt, I'm just like, this is awful. What am I doing?
I never change out of my work clothes until right before I go to sleep, except every now and then when I think of it, I'm like, shoot, I should change out of my clothes the moment I get home from work. And then I'm so comfortable.
Yeah.
I never think to do it.
First thing I do every time I come home, if I'm not, coming here or something like that, 'cause I'm going to wear pants in other people's house. But if it's,
I appreciate that, John.
But if it's my house, I go right upstairs and I change into shorts. Like, it doesn't matter what time of the year it is either.
I always take off my heavy work shoes when I get home. I should add a step to that and have me just change into pajamas.
I've thought about hanging up my shorts where, like, instead of like hanging up your coat, I hang up my pants. Like, I just come home immediately in the door, just drop trow. throw it up on the hook, grab my shorts and pop into those. There was a day or two where I was like, I'm just gonna have my pants downstairs, because why do I have to go all the way upstairs to put on pants? We're not having any company over for a while.
Yeah.
Why don't I just keep my pants downstairs? But then at the same time, it's like, well, what am I turning into? Anyway,
I guess. Well,
I'm sorry.
Maybe you're turning into a slod.
A slod.
Yes. Anyway, so over on Reddit,
a
pants slod, exactly. Pruno says, we play online using Roll20. Would be silly wearing a wizard hat in front of the laptop by myself. Though perhaps for the final session of Curse of Strahd, we will do it at the table, and I could wear a vampire cape to strike fear.
Well, that Roll20, if you're on if you're using webcam or anything like that, depending on where the webcam is situated, you don't have to wear pants either.
True.
True. It's like news anchors are probably not wearing any pants, like that sort of thing. Like the DM's probably not wearing any pants because you only see them from the neck up.
The head of our video program in high school was a radio personality for many years, and it was his thing was that like he would always just be in his boxers.
Right.
So there's like some like newspaper photo of him that he's just like standing there in like a suit jacket and boxers.
Right. Yes.
Over on Twitter, it looks like we just got that's Carl with a K saying no, but I'm going to see if my group might be interested this year on the spirit of Halloween.
Sure.
So hopefully that will have happened, because by the time this episode goes out, this will be after Halloween. We're recording like 2 days before Halloween, so yeah, there's still time. Right. Fingers crossed.
Hey, it's like, it's Halloween's towards the end of the week. The one's coming up. We're still, people go like months ahead. They're celebrating Halloween.
Sure.
And then the day it happens, like it's all over.
It's just over.
Why,
should be all year round.
Well, yes, but I feel like there should be some carryover into the next week of like, the holiday spirit,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So that was the last social media question. The next social media question is one that I came up with for, upcoming Thanksgiving and Christmas and such.
Sure.
The question is, it's a little abstract one. You have to turn one monster or magic item into a pumpkin spiced theme version of itself. What do you do?
So pumpkin spice warforged.
Okay.
Pumpkin spiced.
Now, would that be a warforged that dispenses pumpkin spice latte?
Maybe.
Okay.
So, oh man. Pumpkin spice Tarrasque.
See, I'm thinking of like a dragon instead of like a
pumpkin spice dragon.
I'm thinking of like either an orange dragon or a brown dragon.
Sure, a gourd dragon.
A gourd dragon. Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
All right. Gourd golem.
Oh snap! I didn't even think of golems because we did like the calzone golem. A pumpkin pie golem, Jeff.
A pumpkin pie golem. Yeah.
It's getting a double thumbs up from me. All right. So yeah, we'll see. I'll try to come up with something for 2 weeks from now.
Right.
Oh boy. Why did we ever change?
For when we do responses.
For whenever we do responses, I'll try to come up with something for that.
Yeah.
All right. So that'll do it for questions for today. But before we close out, let's wind down a little bit. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those DMs who have come before us, who have, been taking control of the game. So the rest of us may be players as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre.
This is like a plot twist. This is where the DM dies.
Oh no!
Right.
All right.
Like, how does that happen? Like all of the NPCs die at once, but all the players survive.
So this week's funeral pyre was submitted by King J EXE on Discord, and it goes as follows. So a nice, short and sweet funeral pyre submission for Sibo Loth, the half-elf, half-dragonborn cleric of Torm. Metal armor plus a magical magnetic sphere meant disadvantage against the beholder's death ray.
Ugh.
Bonus points given that my cleric was the only one who had access to greater restoration. It meant that the 2 party members that got turned to stone were screwed.
Oh, no.
In the end, 'twas a TPK.
Oh.
So let's raise a glass to Sibo Loff, who saw them off. Clink.
Good.
I don't know. I don't know about that one. Anyway, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, on Reddit at r/interpartyconflict, on our Interparty Discord, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games, and I want to thank anybody who stopped by to our 24-hour stream.
Yep.
Which
Thank you.
Hopefully went well.
Thank you in advance.
Right, exactly. It's like, I don't expect anybody to stay for the whole 24 hours.
Sure.
But I'd like to pop in, and if you donated to the charity, thank you very much.
Yeah. And hopefully I was able to stop by and play a game while you laid down on the hard basement floor.
I don't think did I actually lay down, or did I just like I was imagining it. I was like,
I don't know.
That floor looks really comfortable. I really want to lay down on that floor.
Gotcha. I'll have to come up with something to play, assuming I am able to show up.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
Shoot, I should have planned this.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Good job.